we'll get started here with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. We do that. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and Ms. Cruz, you will certify if we have a quorum or not.
Town of Ashland.
Yes, here.
Charles City County.
Present.
Chesterfield County. Goochland County. Hanover County. Henrico County.
Here.
Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't say anyone's names.
Lyle's here. Goochland County's here.
Oh, wonderful. Thank
Good
you, Mr.
morning.
Lyle. Let's see, New Kent County, Mr. Moyer.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. Kinney. And City of Richmond, Dr. Newville.
Here.
Okay, so we've got 4 in person, so we don't have out of 9. We don't have a fiscal quorum.
Okay, so we just can't take a
Just can't, we
vote
can't
on the
certify our,
minutes.
yeah,
Yeah, and we can't approve remote participation, but we can just know
they can
that-
participate in the
Yeah,
discussion.
they're participating.
Gotcha. So we're gonna make sure I have this right. They can allow them in, but we don't need a motion to approve them because we don't have enough to actually approve that.
Correct.
So yeah, so welcome, Mr. Moyer, Dr. Newville. You're in the
Thank you.
meeting, unofficially, officially, I don't know. So you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want
Thank
to?
you.
That's, no, I
I'm
don't.
sure. I told her not.
Morning.
I'm gonna sit on the
Mr.
right
Lau,
hand.
how are you?
Sit on the right hand of the boss here.
Right. We need balance.
Spent time looking for my name out there. Can't do the opposite.
Just already right.
And Mr. Lau, we have Dr. Newville and Mr. Moyer online.
Morning, folks.
Good morning.
With that, are there any considerations to any amendments to the agenda from anyone in the room? Seeing none, this is a public meeting. Anyone online or in person would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, public comment has been closed. Moving on to agenda item 6. We cannot actually approve the meeting minutes, so we will just pass on that for now and get that at the next meeting. Number 7,
Thank you.
we'll turn it over to Ms. Schickel.
You all have handouts of the letter that was transmitted this week. Want to recognize Miles Bushing for his leadership and guiding us through a very successful recertification process. Our federal partners from FTA and FHWA were here for a 2-day site visit last week on the 24th. Spending the day with the Tri-Cities MPO and the 25th with our MPO. It was a day-long, I'll say interview. I was gonna say interrogation, but interview. Overview, providing an opportunity for our staff to provide an overview of the core compliance elements for the MPO and for us to respond to questions. I think we got a little bit of a preview of some areas where the federal partners are very pleased with the performance of this MPO, and we would expect that to be highlighted in the letter that is referenced in this document forthcoming with any findings, concerns, or commendations. But it is a point of success and was an item included in this year's work program to prepare for that scheduled recertification. I just want to say a little bit of kind of background, and Miles, you can help me through this when I misspeak, but something that's sort of interesting about our MPO is that we have 2 contiguous MPOs that are adjacent to each other. I guess that's a little bit repetitive, but nevertheless, the Tri-Cities MPO and the Richmond area MPO. And those 2 MPOs together make up the TMA, which is referenced in the letter, the Transportation Management Area. And so we will receive, this is the first time that the 2 agencies have conducted the recertification at the same time. Typically, they've been scheduled at separate times, but there was a request that we could, I suppose we could have disputed it, but it didn't seem like that was a very worthwhile endeavor. There was a request of the partner federal agencies to combine the two recertification processes this year. And so they did do that and conducted them together. And so our letter therefore will be communicated together. So that's why you see the reference to create our planning district commission, the Tri-Cities MPO, and the Petersburg Area Transit, because technically speaking, our fates are connected. We don't quite know what will come, but we think that we heard a little bit of a preview of some probably recommendations that will come about reviewing some core documents that outline our coordination responsibilities between the two MPOs and with our state partners. And so while I'm not sure that I expect those to be findings, which would be kind of the more binding part of the letter, we do think that those recommendations will come, and it'll be interesting to see how that language comes through. I think the good news is we enjoy a really positive relationship with the greater PDC. There's a lot of overlapping membership with Chesterfield and Charles City, both being a part of that planning district commission. And I think Mr. Carroll actually is the chair of the Tri-Cities MPO right now, and was in attendance last week at their meetings. So just sort of more to come on that, and we'll speak to this again when we get to the item on next year's work program. But this is a fairly significant milestone for this fiscal year, and I am grateful to the federal partners and would love to be able to say this in Mr. Rucker's presence if he's here later this morning. I believe the last certification review, we were waiting maybe 9 months before we got the certification letter. So this was a really wonderful turnaround to see this come back within a week. And I think even the time before that, 6 years ago, we were, I think it might have been 18 months before we saw the response letter. So this is, given the staffing considerations at FTA and Federal Highway and their short staff situation, this is just really wonderful to see that happen so quickly.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Ms. Schickel. When I got the letter yesterday, dear Mr. Rogish, and I'll just briefly, based on the review, complies with the intent of federal metropolitan transportation planning laws and regulations. And they also in the letter, they thank a number of organizations, us, Plan RBA, VDOT, and you can read all the GRTC and the Tri-Cities, et cetera. So just wanted to thank you, Miles, the team, your entire team, for getting this completed, because it's very nice to get a letter that we comply with the federal law. So thank you.
Not always.
Not always, not everyone's getting these letters, so we do appreciate that. Thank you.
You comply with their law.
Yeah.
Great.
Moving on.
Yeah, thanks. So we are at the time of year where we're kicking off next fiscal year's work program. From a budgetary perspective, the guidance that we've gotten from both VDOT and DRPT is to assume stable funding. So from a projection perspective, we're plugging the same numbers in that we were allocated this year for next year. Until we get those new numbers. They said, I think last week actually, that we should anticipate that within maybe like 3 weeks or so. So we'll see. The reps from VDOT and DRPT. Yeah. From a priority perspective, staff's recommendation is to this committee to sort of for consideration this morning and an ongoing discussion is to continue with the core priorities from this fiscal year. So we have 3 primary compliance deliverables under the MPO. Those are the Unified Planning Work Program, the Long Range Transportation Plan, and the Transportation Improvement Program. So, we'll continue obviously to develop and maintain the Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP. The Long Range Transportation Plan is scheduled to come before you this coming fall for approval. And so we're continuing with that as a major deliverable for next fiscal year. And then, of course, the ongoing maintenance of the TIP. This fiscal year was the big year for the delivery of the sort of fully renewed transportation improvement program, but that's an ongoing maintenance effort for the team. In addition to that, from a programmatic perspective, it's our understanding from just ongoing conversations with localities and understanding of kind of where we think our read is on the priorities is continuing to stay the course with transportation safety. So I'll just take a note. There's a message up there on notepad on the wall. We do have a safety survey that's live right now, and so that's very much a contribution to informing how that work program element will come out next year. But we know that there's an opportunity not only to prioritize safety in the scoring of projects for evaluation for funding, but also to think about ways that we can raise awareness in the community about speed and distracted driving, as those are primary drivers of a lot of the tragedies that we know to be occurring across the region. And then finally, from a programmatic perspective, prioritization continuing on the transit front. So there's a major deliverable for GRTC this coming fiscal year in delivery of their regional transportation plan, or excuse me, regional transit plan. And so supporting that effort and fulfilling our obligation to coordinate with them on that. And then also just continuing to be in partnership with GRTC in evaluating their longer term financial projections and the shortfall that is projected right now by 2031. So ensuring that we've got a stable, sustainable funding strategy for maintenance of transit across the region. So those are super high level, but kind of where we're thinking the starting point would be, would love to get policy or executive committee members' input. The next step in the process is to work with the TAC this month and next in developing the sort of the nuts and bolts of the UPWP with a TAC recommendation of the UPWP coming back to this body on April 23rd, which is your last scheduled meeting of the fiscal year.
I have a question. Our role as a board in the GRTC funding, sustainability of their funding is exactly, well, I mean, you said we're helping them.
Yeah.
Do we have a formal responsibility in that, specifically to the funding of GRTC? Or are we just assisting?
Yeah, Miles, again, I'm gonna ask you to help me walk through this. There's language in the federal MPO regulations with regard to our responsibility to coordinate with transit operators, so all of them in the region, in establishing a constrained plan for the delivery of the necessary transit services. So there's that piece, and that sort of coordination can be interpreted in many different ways. In addition to that, there's in state law a requirement for GRTC to coordinate. I think that that's still the same term that's used, to coordinate with the MPO in the development of their annual plan submitted to the CBTA for use of their set aside for transit, the 15%. And so in both federal and state code, there's this reference to the obligation of the MPO to be a coordinating partner. In addition to that, Plan RBA this fiscal year is a recipient of grant funds from DRPT, where we proactively went after a competitive grant award to work in partnership with GRTC to support the development of a long-term financial sustainability strategy. So that grant will expire June 30th. That obligation, if you will, under that grant will expire with the grant expiration. But I think my perspective would be on the Plan RBA side of things, it's sort of our obligation to see that work through for the good of the region. But, you know, at the end of the day, the financial accountability lies with GRTC.
With them, not us. Okay. I apologize. Any other questions from?
Yep.
Yes, sir, Mr. Lau.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I need to go back. Two things. With safety being a top priority, I have, as of last month, found that I am now also going to be Plan RBA representative. I wasn't aware of that till.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Well, yeah, Mr. Spoonhour said the same thing as he transitioned off Plan RBA. They are looking at 0 fatalities. And I know that we've had an animated discussion as to how that's not really realistic, and our friends at the federal level would not be receptive to us saying, well, we want 0 fatalities, because probably already this year has not been achieved, that we've had a fatality. how are we coordinating one organization saying we want 0 fatalities and we're saying, well, we want 107 people?
So I want to know a little bit more about that. Plan RVA hasn't had a policy statement, so to speak, on 0 fatalities.
I've got some kind of advertising dealy Bob that,
But that's a marketing effort,
Yes.
building upon the city of Richmond's education and outreach. It's not a policy statement.
okay.
So-
all right. I'm easily misled.
Well, I think that's a good point that we should clarify I think we can work with the team. Do you want to speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, if I,
Richmond 0 is,
so I think there's two components to it, and I think that this board has actually, well, the full policy board has actually adopted sort of both levels. So we have, for the 2050 long range plan that's under development, we've adopted a target of 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries. So we have set that target by 2050 when we want to achieve that 0. But in the immediate term, when we're setting those annual targets like we talked about, we've got 4 years of data already baked in, so we know 0 is not where we're gonna be at the next year. So there's
I missed the 2050.
yeah, so I think that's it. We've got a longer term vision that's set.
All right. And then the other were, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
on regional transit, we in Goochland, with really good input from our friends at GRTC, have been looking at micro transit, and there's John, I believe, out of Albemarle, and then Dash out of Hanover. Are those part of the,
yes, those operators as well as Bay Transit. And there's a Chesterfield operated service as well, but all of those are transit partners. So
okay,
there are sort of two pieces of this. And I probably should have said this a little bit more clearly. When we talk globally about transit access in the work program, we're speaking about the service that's provided by all of those operators.
all right.
When we talk about the obligation with CVTA, that is specific to GRTC.
All
So
right.
I conflated those two and shouldn't have.
No, I mean, you gave me a chance to ask a question. I mean, so,
Our relationship is the strongest in many respects, if you were to sort of measure it by frequency of interaction with GRTC.
oh, absolutely,
Simply
yes.
because of the volume of service that they have, but we interact regularly with. In fact, there was a representative from Hanover Dash at our public meeting last week for the certification review, speaking to the federal partners about our coordination. We probably have the least involvement with Jaunt because they're not technically operating in our region, but we're well aware of the survey that was done and the evaluation 1 or 2 years ago about the expansion of service into Goochland. So
Well, how about 3 months ago? I
I'm
mean,
not personally aware of
No.
that. Our team might be.
And they did a great job. We just can't afford 600,000 a year.
Mhm.
And so but we believe in need. Anyway, I just was curious as we have had conversations with John Dash and GRTC. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Online, any questions? Okay, Ms. Schickel, you wanna go on to the meeting dates for FY 27?
Last sheet in your packet, we just wanted to float these dates by you to see if these look like they will fit in the schedule for next fiscal year. These wouldn't be included on the agenda until April 23rd for approval, but we know, especially the July date, it's important to get that on calendars as early as possible. So we wanted to float these by and ask you all if you could take a look at this, review your calendar, maybe talk with your colleagues as it's appropriate, who sit on the policy board, and just let us know if any of these dates present a problem.
As the,
I will ask the question for Mr. Lyle. You meant 2026, not 202 that
Oh,
on
yeah.
July, right?
I was gonna say my flex capacitor is still busting.
Now, that may not have been your question.
It was.
I figured so, Mr. Lyle.
Thank you.
Am I that predictable?
I know you that well, see.
You have my condolences.
I'm just so grateful that you all pay attention. Sometimes, there's things nobody notices.
Did you have another question, Mr. Lyle?
No, sir, I just wanted to know if we are going back in time.
We are, so.
From my perspective, the dates look good. Any questions from the group? Thoughts, et cetera? Okay. Ms. Schickel, anything else from your perspective? I have 2 updates. 2 things, just for the executive group, and I want to make sure that I have this right, but item B3 in our agenda, the city of Richmond has requested a swap on some projects for the smart scale. Miles, you're gonna review that now with us real quick, maybe?
I can review that one. So one of the 10 projects of Smart Scale, we are able to submit up to 12 pre-applications. This is getting approval for a list of 10, because ultimately we're allowed 10 full applications. So the TAC went with 10. One of those projects is the Richmond or Fulton layover yard which is a rail related project. It's at the boundary between Henrico and Richmond. And Richmond had requested it. However, through the CBTA, we recently awarded funding to that project. And so the city has requested to swap that project out for another one that was on our list. And they have been working with VDOT to make sure that it'll be eligible to move forward, and that's the Hull Street Phase 2. So it's one of 3 sections of Hull Street that are contiguous that would essentially create a consistent profile through all of Hull Street, basically from the Chesterfield County line in to, I can't remember off the top of my head the exact limits of all 3 phases, but it's just creating a consistent profile, shared use path, sidewalk, 2 travel lanes, just overall improvement. But it does appear that that'll be eligible, so we're gonna request that that gets swapped out, but that's not included in the resolution. That request came late due to the CBTA action.
So we'll have to make an amendment to that at the next meeting, or?
What we're asking for is that if someone's so inclined, that when they make the motion, they include that swap, and we'll present on what's requested during the item.
So it's not in the resolution, but you're asking us to make that amendment for that, okay, I get it.
Correction. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Just, yeah, since we did 10, so who was number 11? And is there any logic that we would have simply said, since the needs of the city are being met through CBTA, would there be any wisdom or logic in just moving number 11 up onto the 10 instead of a swap out?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know what number 11 was. It may have been what they're asking to put on.
Yeah, so we had 18 candidates submitted. So we had a call for projects and we had 18 total projects submitted. Several of those don't appear to be eligible for the high priority projects program, which we're eligible to submit for. So those were pulled out from the list. And so we actually only had 14 projects, which Plan RVA also gets 4 slots. And so the idea was to make sure that Plan RVA got their application slots as well. So in this action item, there's also part of the resolution is to respectfully request that the commission consider those projects for their regional applications. So we're trying to make sure that we fill out all of our full slots rather than worrying about the pre-application slots, which are slightly higher.
Let me ask my question differently.
There is no 11.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
that's where I was trying to
Yeah.
get to.
Yes.
Are we?
I had asked the same question of Miles earlier this week.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're splitting the 14 that we have between the 2 regional bodies is the
As
goal.
long as number 11 isn't still being left at the altar, it's like,
We're between the 2 bodies, the staff recommendation is to submit all of the projects, which total 14. That happens to be the number of slots we have that were
so
deemed appropriate to move forward.
we're dotting i's, crossing t's. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
The 2 other things that I have, number 1, and I don't know Mr. Richwine, but I do have a note here that Herb Richwine, he's a long-serving member of the CTAC committee and member of Chesterfield County, past vice chair and chair from 2018 to 2020, has passed away. Since learning of this, I think staff has gone out and they've done some research and found on county memos and appointments that he was serving as far back as 1988 and maybe even longer than that from what they found. So again, I don't know personally, Mr. Richwine. If anybody else does, please let me know, but maybe we'll do a little moment of silence at the start of the meeting, if that's okay. If anybody wants to say anything, I'll ask. I don't know if Ms. Schneider knows or anybody else from Chesterfield, et cetera, but okay.
Appreciate that.
Other than that, the only thing else that I wanted to say, there've been a couple of news reports, and again, as it relates to transportation planning, you've maybe seen that the Richmond Airport is trying to get a flight to Europe. You maybe have seen some of that in the news, et cetera. So just wanted to kind of give that as a heads up to everyone. that the Greater Richmond Partnership, which coincidentally I am the chair of the Greater Richmond Partnership, is leading that effort with negotiations with airlines to try to get an international flight. Again, just from a transportation planning perspective, it's a joint effort between localities, regional bodies, as well as the private industry to try to entice either Aer Lingus or British Airways to get us across to Europe, a direct flight to Europe. So, Miss Barnhart looks like she's very excited, so. But I did want to let folks know that, so.
We currently have service. I don't know, we had direct flights to Toronto at one time. I don't know if that is still, and then Bermuda and the Bahamas, Jamaica.
Yeah, there have been discussions, and I'm not on the airport commission. I know there have been discussions with Toronto in the past, and I think there is a direct flight to Bermuda. Is that correct?
Yes.
It just started, so that is, so it is capable of international flights, but specifically from the Greater Richmond Partnership, we're looking at flights for Europe.
Great, good luck.
And, okay, I'm gonna just raise that at the full board meeting, because I think everyone has seen some articles about it, and of course, if anyone's interested in learning more, they can let me know. So I have on the executive, any comments from the rest of the executive team?
Just thank you for the photo of Goochland there on the front. We are pursuing the third running lane. I'm not sure this photo represents that, but that is a transportation initiative. So those neighbors of ours from Chesterfield don't get to spend a lot of time admiring the scenery in Goochland, say, towards their jobs in West Creek.
Is that the picture, one of the smart scale? Where did I read that?
Running
Two
shoulder.
eighty-eight, the shoulder on 288, is that not? Did I read that somewhere? Maybe I missed that somewhere else. But I didn't know if that was exactly the picture of that or not.
I know Goochland really well, but I don't know it that well.
I don't think they're so coordinated that.
I wouldn't, and that's really impressive if it
Yeah.
is, but
Drone
That would
technology.
be really cool if we
Drone
did that,
technology.
but it's not in place right now.
okay. With that, seeing no